of us to give ears and give sight to the discourse this morning. You can do so by connecting with us across social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, precisely at Eagles FM Abuja, and spread the wings across every other social media platform. That would be X, TikTok and Instagram at Eagles FM Abuja. What are we talking about this morning? We're looking at the budget defense. 48-hour ultimatum given to key revenue generating agencies in Nigeria. And our guest is none other but Dr. Yusho Aliyu, and he's an economist analyst and is going to do some justice to this discourse this morning. And well, the background to the story is rooted in the Nigerian government's efforts to enhance revenue generation and reduce borrowing, but the National Assembly Joint Committee on Finance has been working to scrutinize the budgets of various agencies to ensure that they are transparent and accountable. The committee has given a 48-hour ultimatum to agencies such as the Nigerian Ports Authority (NPA), Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, that would be NAMASA, and Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) to defend their 2025 budgets. Well, quite a number of persons have said that this move is part of the committee's efforts, to ensure that the agencies are generating enough revenue to support the government's budget. But the Nigerian government has also been facing challenges, in generating revenue, and the committee is working to address this issue. The committee's efforts are also aimed at reducing the country's reliance on borrowing and ensuring that the government's budget is sustainable. One question would come to mind. What indeed is, looking at it from the historical context of the Nigerian government's effort to enhance revenue generation, and has these efforts been able to impact the country's economy? Well, Dr. Yusho, welcome to the Prog Show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Najee.
So glad to have you in the studio this morning. We've seen quite a number of ministries, departments, and agencies being called for by the committee that's been put together by the National Assembly Committee on Finance to scrutinize their activities as well as their budget presentation, as it were. And we have seen Tunji Ojo come up, Minister of Power as well. Adelabu has come up, to give his own thoughts. Even the military have also come up, to give their own thought line in this regard. But then it does seem as though while some see this as progress, as this will better inform what the budget of 2025 would look like, others are seeing seeing the recklessness, so to speak, of some of these ministries not making themselves available to indeed address some of their issues and all of that. In fact, just recently we saw Customs talking about a 12 trillion naira revenue projection for 2025, and it has brought about some worries, in the minds of quite a number of stakeholders. I'm sure their thoughts would be, how are you going to do this without seemingly stepping on toes or shortchanging Nigerians in one way or the other? But when we also think about or tinker with the thought line, it makes us want to look at a personal story of a Nigerian who has said he has experienced the impact of government's revenue generation challenges firsthand. The lack of funding for public services has affected the quality of education, healthcare, infrastructure, and the economy. The 48-hour ultimatum to the agencies, he's saying, is a step in the right direction, as it will help to ensure that government's budget is transparent and accountable. However, he's concerned about the potential impact of the ultimatum on the agencies and the economy as a whole. Now, will these agencies be able to defend their budgets effectively, and what will be the consequences if they fail to do so? What are your thoughts as you wrap your mind around this conversation, 48-hour ultimatum?
It is a proactive approach by the National Assembly, and that shows that the ultimatum given is an indication of seriousness from the National Assembly.
Okay.
And also their concern about government deficit. You know, we have said it earlier, once you are having a very large deficit and you are servicing debt at the same time, you have two double-edged sword. Whatever you generate will go out to service what is ought not to be. Because remember, in one of our presentations here, I mentioned a good property of tax, principle of quid pro quo, returns benefit, meaning that the taxes we generated, we are not generating them for the purpose of servicing debt. We are generating our revenues to be invested into our critical infrastructure that will enhance security, that will enhance performance of education, that will enhance performance in health sector and many other sectors of the economy. Therefore, my submission, my understanding, my opinion in this is a good thing in the right direction, and it has come at the right time.
Right. Do you believe, or do you share in the thought that the outcome of the budget defense will affect the average Nigerian citizen, and what do you think the potential implications are for the country's economy?
The potential implication is that we have to be taking also proactive decision in adjusting the reliable macroeconomic parameters that distribute resources to individual home, that also produces efficiency in terms of production by increasing the purchasing powers of individuals. And that is why sometimes whenever GDP prospect is recorded, it's a prosperity to the economy. But what is more important is to record a collective prosperity where the GDP will be growing, where the industry pocket will be growing, so that the purchasing power can have an implication in putting additional value to the GDP itself, and which also reduces unemployment. And you have to be more proactive in looking at the variables that are making these things to happen.
Right, but then I don't know if you saw has been a surge in inflation. I mean, 34.80 now.
I have said it. I have said it.
Just when we thought, and the president had projected a 15%,
and I say it's unrealistic.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, but anyways, when we juxtapose that and we go back, historically, you would recall that the Nigerian government's effort to enhancing revenue generation is dated back to as far back as 1990s, right, when the country began to experience a decline in oil revenue. I mean, the government has since then been working to diversify its revenue, streams and reduce its reliance on oil, which you mentioned some time ago that we are already in a diversified economy. That's the truth. However, though, the efforts has been quite slow, and streams and the reduction in reliance, on oil has been the matter that has been of time immemorial. I mean, efforts have been slow to enhance revenue generation, and they are part of a broader strategy to reducing the country's reliance on oil, and its budget is sustainable. But if from your own part as a professional as in this regard, what are the key factors that have contributed to the Nigerian government's revenue generation challenges, and how do you think they have impacted the country's economy? Is it positively? Is it negatively?
No. You see, the hindrances arises as a result of poor policy management.
Just when we thought that in terms of policy we've been getting it rightly. I mean, the president, fuel is another thing now that's becoming an issue, and all of that. When you wrap all of these up, you still think policy is responsible for this?
We
still think policy is responsible for this?
if you are to understand why policy is very important,
Right.
you look at the policy of an individual consumer. That consumer must drive a policy to make him healthy. What he consumes, at what price, at what time. That is one of the fundamental question in the economic doctrine. That is what, when, and how.
Right.
What they are consuming, at what price, and how you are consuming it. Time immemorial, policies are designed for taxes, policies are designed for monetary policy, and that is why we continue to hammer that coordination in terms of monetary and fiscal policies is very important. It is now that we are beginning to see certain aspects of professionalizing policy adjustment by putting on different reforms.
Okay.
And these reforms must be understood and must be inclined to the desire of the economy. Inclining to the desire of the economy, that you understand the expansion, how to expand the tax base instead of increasing the tax rate.
Okay.
Because they all have their the virtual implication to the economic growth of an economy. Now, in putting on the coordination between the fiscal and monetary policies, now come to understand the size of the economy. If you are to understand the size of the economy, you understand the sectoral contribution of each and every sector of the economy.
Right.
And from there, you now design a policy where those that are within the operational zones of all the sectoral segmentation are being properly compensated.
Right.
And if they are properly compensated, it's coming back to the same economy. And that is why some time in pushing out for rebasing the GDP, and then thinking that you can include A, B, C, and D,
Right.
to make sure that the entire world understood the size of the economy is not enough. What is more important, understanding the size of the economy, the operational capacity of industries within the economy, and also the operational models of those particular manufacturing and industrialization of the economy vis-a-vis the income grouping of individual consumers. Because whatever is produced, electricity, if it is produced, it is to be transmitted and to be distributed, after distributed to be consumed by firms and households. These are the consumers, but at what rate and doing what with the energy. These are basic things that the operational modalities must incline and then specify. Nigerian economy is very large. You have a large population. You take a composition of pay as you earn tax. You take a composition of value added tax on different multiple products that are being consumed. Those that are being consumed, there are things that must be exempted. These things to be exempted must be explained, must be understood, and must be put in the right direction so that the economy can react.
Okay, just before you go further, I recall you mentioned the matter of rebasing the economy. A few days ago, if not yesterday or the day before, we'd had that conversation. I mean, the government had come out to saying that, look, you know what, we want to put the economy in a better light. We want to see how we can also engage the informal sector, and bring them into the economy. But for you, this is not a digress, because we're still talking about the economy. I mean, for you, what would be your frantic thoughts in this move by the federal government to rebase the economy? I mean, we've seen the European Union do that, over a decade ago and all of that. But do you think that there will be any, this is audio, by audio meaning it's just mere, word of the mouth, and it might not have any visible impactation, on the people of the country?
Rebasing exercise of any economy requires authentic data.
Do we not have the data?
That is what I am trying to tell you as a prerequisite for you to have an excellent rebasing of an economy, so that it can translate to invite FDIs, foreign direct investment, and then stimulate domestic economic activities. However, including informal sectors, all economies have informal sectors.
Right.
All economies have formal sectors. Taxes are imposed in almost desired target of policies. Taxes on agriculture can be indirect, can be direct. Taxes in allied agricultural products can be indirect, can be direct. But taxes in manufacturing are direct.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Why is that direct?
It's
Manufacturing.
It's direct because they are fully registered
Oh, okay.
formally, and their operation is being monitored officially. So it is easy. Let me give you an example
Okay.
of the production line of tobacco where I worked before.
Okay.
In the production line, each cigarette produced is being carefully identified by custom officials in the factory.
Really?
So therefore, for the production line to create a maneuver to shy away from paying taxes, it will be difficult, because at the production lines you produce so brand of cigarette, 10 stick, 100 million packets, 100 million cartons. Each is to be taxed, because you are discouraging consuming of that product at a percentage.
Okay.
And government is making revenue from that to make an intervention into health sector and other sectors related to efficiency of workforce.
Okay.
Now in agriculture, the production lines are not even properly secured, but you tax the input, you tax the fertilizer, you tax the tractors, you tax the pesticide, and you tax all the components that you engage in production. And at the same time, after producing probably a cotton, a granite, palm tree, cocoa, at the end of the day, you now offer it for sales, and you now come to tax directly or indirectly. You exempt for the growth of the economy.
Right.
So you have an option. These are some of the things in trying to design a policy. You look at what people consume, you look at people's income, you look at relevant areas to put your taxation. But the informal sector, that is called shadow economy,
Yes.
is very dangerous.
Why?
You
Why so?
must be careful. It's dangerous.
Why? Why so?
It is so because if you are to tax prostitution, are you getting it? You are encouraging officially immorality.
Right.
Are you getting it?
Yeah.
That's why it's dangerous. And if you tax prostitution, tomorrow, since you are taxing informal sector, and if you see the size of another economic disease that is called ransom payment, generating over 2 trillion. If you just look at the figure and you say you are going to tax ransom, next time you say you are going to tax Yahoo. Are you getting it? Because of cyber crime, taxes. Are you getting it? So you must be careful not to increase vices. What is more important in an economy, every production line, every economy has priority. And that is why even in this budget that we are discussing,
Yes.
government always check their priorities and then dwell on it and then position it very effectively and then monitor it very, very professionally and efficiently for results to be achieved.
Right.
So in rebasing an economy, you have to be very, very careful to look at the custom, traditions, and the behavior of that economy, because it may be good to tax all seafood. Are you getting it? Including frogs, businesses. Do you understand? But by the time you put taxes on all seafood, the fish in the riverine communities, which the riverine people are taking as their source of livelihood, the more you put taxes, the more you discourage them, the more you teach them to have an apathy the more they become far from government, because there will be war between the citizens and the tax enforcement agencies, because there are a lot of informal sectors that are holding this economy, that is making more people to be more conscious of the state.
Right.
And that is informal operations of businesses. But however, in rebasing, considerations shall be given to actual performance of our businesses. I would have loved it to have these micro medium enterprises,
Right.
because of avoiding payment of taxes, they are under presenting their operational capacity. I would have loved to put more emphasis at the size and coverage of all businesses in Nigeria. Small medium enterprises contribute 40% of an African small medium businesses. Nigeria contribute 40%. So if you, yes, so if you can have that number, we have to exhaust it to understand the operational capacity and their contribution to the GDP. The communication sector, for instance, if you finish with the banking sector, the commercial, the industrial, the agri-based, the microfinance, today you have POS that is more or less point of cash. It is not available in the United States. POS converting, delivering certain aspect of money supplies to the economy.
Right.
So you look at those operational modalities, put them, include them. These are formal sectors now. Initially they started as informal.
Right.
I will accept that. But definitely we must be careful in trying to bring informal that is anti-cultural arrangement of our people. If you have a hotel, you pay. If you have a guest house, you pay. If you have an apartment, you pay. If individual indulge in prostitution, is immoral. We don't need that dirty money. You understand?
Right.
Nobody, other economies may consider it because they consider tourism as part of their own investment. Nigerian priority is greater than that. We have solid minerals, we have fertile land, we have oil and gas, we have several advantages to dwell on, to put our rebasing standard and to put our rebasing to tally with our ambition and our prospect as a nation.
Well, when we look at the rebasing in terms of having, some of these heads of ministries, departments, and agencies failing to appear before the National Assembly, I want to see that as another type of rebasing. But it's not the first time that we've seen these kinds of attitude, happen. And when we look at this, some of the members of that committee have been calling out for the jobs of these people's, the helms of affairs. And quite a number of Nigerians are beginning to raise eyebrows into saying, what exactly is it that is making you not show up before a National Assembly?
Lack of confidence.
Lack of confidence.
Yes, when you are to be given the appointment, if you are asked to come, you come and wait for the National Assembly to confirm you. Now that a responsibility is given to you, you have no reason to shy away from accountability, and that accountability matters. And for all financial operations of government to be more successful, we need to be a little bit accountable. Nobody is a saint. We all know the factors that are involved. But what is more important is that National Assembly is a decision. It's a law. It's a law decision mechanism, and therefore each and every Nigerian must respect the National Assembly. If they call you, who asks you to travel? Who asks you not to put your record in order? Who asks you not to put efficiency? These are the things that I am trying to explain for us to have a good rebasing standard.
Right, but haven't we seen, some very humongous monies being allocated to certain issues in some of these ministries or agencies and of government. I mean, look at JAM, for example.
Yeah.
How much do they put for? Is it 1 billion naira now for fumigation?
Yeah.
There was another part where we saw a very humongous amount of monies that's been put out there for staff feeding.
Yeah.
And Nigerians are like, staff feeding?
Yeah.
Really? When there are some people out there who are still struggling with half square meal.
Yeah, they put people who doesn't have professional experience to put the subheads, accounting subheads of some commitments.
Okay.
Like
what
fumigation,
sense?
for instance.
Okay.
We are all living witnesses in Nigeria where IDPs generated money was used to cut grasses. We are all part of the system when distillation that is taking place in riverine community,
Right.
distillation of soil. Do you understand? These are subheads that bureaucrat and technocrat took advantage of them to siphon money, and it has been evident in many classical cases. But what is more important, the National Assembly should now concentrate on things that are more important to the growth of the economy. Let me give you an example
Right.
of something that is more practical but is everywhere. Provision of solar light. Do you understand?
Right.
Now we all need solar light, but we need it in the absence of regular electricity. Why can't we concentrate in the electricity generation, distribution, rather than provision of solar panels for lightning purposes?
Well, I'm going to come back with that conversation, but let's go on a recess. We'll be right back in a short bit. It is Eagles Outlook right here on Eagles FM 102.3 FM Abuja. Don't go away.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Wow, it's Emirates. It's time of the year when we all start to plan our next holidays, and you are spoiled for choice with Emirates. Fly better to over 114 destinations and connect to over 1,700 more with their partners across the world on what a way to travel. With bars in the sky, onboard showers, and award-winning in-flight entertainment. It's no surprise that Emirates was named the best airlines in the world, so book now on Emirates.com.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Has anyone told you you can talk about your business on radio for just
20,000 naira?
Get a chance to talk your business for 25 minutes on The Entrepreneur. Mondays to Fridays, 3 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja. For more inquiries, call 090-9984-4433. 090-9984-4433. Hurry now.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
You're still tuning in, locked on to Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja. We give you an audio-visual radio experience you can count on. Head out now to social media platforms where we have a strong presence. YouTube it is at Eagles FM Abuja. Subscribe and give us your 2 cents in the comment section, as well as the Facebook page wall at Eagles FM Abuja, and give us a comment, in the comment section as well, and spread the love across social media platforms. X, Instagram, and TikTok at Eagles FM Abuja. Still in the studio is Dr. Yusho Aliyu, is an economic analyst, and we're still looking at the budget defense. 48-hour ultimatum has been given to key revenue-generating agencies in Nigeria. I think we've spent a couple of hours into the 48 hours now. We're looking forward to the rest of the hour and the ultimatum coming to a close, and hoping to hear from these agencies' heads as we begin to have a peek into proper understanding of what the 2025 budget would be. Although quite a number of Nigerians have had some thoughts about the delay, in passing the budget. Others are suspecting a budget padding situation. Others are looking at the place of not having finished with the 2024 budget, and we're already talking 2025. But what would be your reservations in all of these? Do you think that this delay is a step in the right direction? Does it hold water? Is it positive? Or do you think it is negative? Is it putting a standstill, to certain businesses in terms of their policies for the year of 2020 or the fiscal year of 2025? Well, let's have your thoughts already. 0907 353 0044 is that number to call. The other number would be 0908 766 8888, and the WhatsApp portal number is 0909 705 4450. What should be the key thing that the National Assembly must do, or should it be enshrined in the Constitution to ensure that we don't have heads of agencies, departments, or ministries sidelining the call by the National Assembly to them to appear to give account in terms of their budgets and how they have spent, the monies that has been allotted to them over time. Well, that's what we are looking at this morning, right? You can also leave a message via the WhatsApp 0909 705 4450. When we look at issues that concern revenue generation, some are beginning to ask questions of the strategies that a government, can use to enhance revenue generation and how they can be implemented effectively. Dr. Yosho, so far, have we seen any strategies put in place that will enhance, budgets implementation effectively?
Yes, once you have a strategy of having a restructured tax-based system,
right,
and distribution system, it's a good one, but it has to be done thoroughly. Second aspect is sources of revenue should not only include sales of crude oils, because from experience, a large number of our oil production has already been mortgaged.
Okay.
So, diversifying sources of revenue is very more important than even diversifying the economy. It may sound very...
Diversifying the sources,
yes, of revenue
is more important
than diversifying
the
the
economy.
emphasis on diversifying the economy. Exactly. Because the economy, as I told you, is already fragmented. There is a communication industry, and it is thriving. There is agricultural industry.
Yeah.
It is thriving. There is manufacturing. It's thriving. So what is more important is to how to strategize the revenue basis in each of these fragmentation. Do you understand? Now, given 48 hours for about 6 agencies to appear. Now, if each agency is projecting to have a revenue of 10 trillion, you already have 60 trillion. Yes.
Wow.
Do you understand? So, but it depends on the strategies you put and the professional touch you incline in strategizing how it flows. Because if you have an economy that has a liquidity of above 100 trillion, it's showing that that economy is a trading-based economy. It's a trade-based economy. That's why you have a lot of cash in the hands of people. So definitely in this trading, you look at sectorally, you look at the contribution of each sector, and now you maximize the benefit in each sector. Then you can get the derivation. NIMASA, many people are not familiar because they are far from the seas and oceans. They don't even know that revenue is being generated. Now education, we have where we put generated revenue to enhance performance of education through TED fund. But we have JAM, an educational-based institution also generating money and then even expending billions in subheads. So if that subhead can be minimized, additional revenue will come to government.
Right.
And if an expansion also can be attributed to other causes, for instance, when we are talking about including informal sector, now you concentrate in government secondary school, private secondary schools, and you don't have the Islamic-based Islamia schools, for instance, that are prevalent in northern Nigeria. You have thousands of Islamia schools, but you are very conscious. It's informal, but you are very conscious that if you go there, they will say you are trying to relegate religion. You are trying to tax religion.
Right.
Do you understand? Now, churches pay taxes because they are incorporated. A large number of Islamic mosques are not registered, are just operating. You only tend to register when it is mandatory for the mosques to have a bank account. That is what will compel. So, but what I am emphasizing in diversifying it, don't put high rates. Even this VAT, I am not fashioned to have 10%. Whatever you are consuming, you are paying 10% of it. In an economy where the capacity of purchasing power of individuals is being eroded.
Was going to get there, especially when you look at what the minimum wage is all about.
Yes.
In fact,
So a lot of questions and a lot of things that has to be more tactical. I'm happy Mr. President is a listening president.
Right.
Do you understand? But he has to listen more and have more patience, because this is a critical time to reform the economy, but not reforming the economy with a lot of questions. Because questions that does not have the right answers are time bombed.
Well, the NLC had come out, just recently to saying that, given some reasons as to why they had brought to a standstill, the tax reform bills from the federal government, by Mr. President rather, and all. But then it's a critical aspect to look into, especially looking at the purchase power of Nigerians, and it brings to mind some thoughts that is divergent with thoughts of or shared thoughts of quite a number of top government officials, especially those in helms of affairs, ministers, even the president saying better days ahead. Do you think with what's going on in the country so far and the minimum wage?
Our political promises let us know. You see, a hungry man,
right?
What he's looking is food on his table. You can't tell a hungry man to wait till Christmas Day.
Do we still have a Christmas Day?
Yes, that is a promise.
Right.
Somebody is hungry now and you are telling him that don't worry, there is enough provision on Christmas Day. You will be well fed. Or on Salah Day. No. Action speaks louder than voice.
So should we be hopeful of the
2025 as a positive economist,
budget?
As a positive, I don't look at the budget, but I look at policy adjustment, because budget has a target. Budget has a target: critical infrastructures. Most of it are tangible in nature, but it is not, and it's not well noticed. Let me give you. I said in the beginning of this year, this budget would take production possibility frontiers to interpret the allocations. That is under elementary economics.
Okay.
The production possibility frontiers or production possibility boundary is just it is an illustration of how government revenues are allocated to either butter to represent civilian goods or to military guns to represent security. Right. And what we saw in 2025, 5 trillion is going for security, debt servicing over 13 billion. When you minus these figures alone, debt servicing, the deficit, and the amount allocated to security from 49.7, you know what you are going to get.
Well, we saw the defense from Mele Kyari, the chief executive officer of the NNPCL, remitting 10 trillion naira into the federation account as of September of 2024. Alongside 3.5 trillion naira paid in dividends after taxes and revenue for the 2024 fiscal year. But it doesn't seem as though that went down well with the committee at the time. And even some Nigerians are saying that there should have been more remittances, beyond the 10. Is it 10 trillion naira now? Yes, 10 trillion naira. Well, you want to add your voice in the discourse this morning. Let us know your thoughts, especially looking at the non-appearance of some heads of agency before the National Assembly Committee on Finance to defend their budgets and all. What is the idea behind such moves, and how can the heads of these agencies be brought to caution so that we don't have a repetition of this? And do you have any hope, or do you share any thoughts or any promise as to what the 2025 budget would hold, especially its impactation in the lives of the average Nigerian? Well, you can call us on 0907 353 0044 or 0908 766 8888. And the WhatsApp portal number is 0909-705-4450. The economy is already diversified, but then there are some thoughts about potential diversification of the Nigerian economy and how the government can achieve this goal. You've mentioned that over and over again, but let's look at the place of corruption. Some are alluding the fact that these heads that have failed to appear is as a result of corruption, probably trying to tie loose ends, as it were, so that they don't get found out, so to balance the sheets, and all of that. But then 48 hours has been given. In terms of the ultimatum time or duration, do you think there should have been a lesser time given, or should there have been even a time given?
No. 48 hours, the National Assembly is being merciful to even the MDS. You submitted your budget.
Right.
When you submit your budget, you are prepared to answer anything out of it. So if you fail to come, it's your own cup of tea. National Assembly must be respected. The National Assembly, some time back, there has been incoordination. There is always row between the executive and the legislature.
Right.
And some of us stood to our ground to call the attention of National Assembly that you are serving one nation. There shouldn't be a rancor between the executive and the legislature. And we are seeing this time around. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to stress. We are seeing that the National Assembly are doing their job, and after doing their job, they are also cooperating with the executive arm. And that cooperation should be extended from all head of agencies that have been appointed. That cooperation should be extended. It's incomplete when the president is coordinating the submission on their behalf. So it's a disrespect to the commander-in-chief.
Not just the National Assembly.
Not just the National Assembly. And for us who are trying hard to speak this hard language for the benefit of all of us, because we are all victims of it. When you take, sometimes there are index that I don't want to be mentioning them on air. The corruption perception index.
Right.
Compare Nigeria with other nations in terms of corruption. I don't want to be saying it because we supposed to understand it and then make use of certain adjustments. We are all victims. Do you understand? And we are all vulnerable because a hungry man is an angry man. And a hungry man can eat anything, lawful or unlawful. And that is why sometimes to try as much as possible to keep the legitimacy, that is by keeping the accountable resources. do your best, reduce it. It can be reduced to minimum. You cannot wipe out corruption in government. You cannot wipe out corruption in household. Even household corruption exists.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right.
A budget has been presented to National Assembly. A household has already tendered his own budget of how to feed his family. At least 2 square meal out of 3 is deficient of 0.011. So out of that 0.11, there are components that are very important to make the household comfortable. If those condiments are not there and they are taken out of corruption, it's still part of corruption.
Right. Well, let's look at this one where a comparative analysis of the budget defense process in other countries reveals that many have implemented strategies to enhance revenue generation and reduce borrowing. I mean, for example, if you look at the case of Ghana now, the government has implemented a tax reform program to increase revenue generation. I mean, in South Africa, the government has implemented a budgeting process that prioritizes transparency and accountability. The implication of the budget defense process are quite significant. It could have a major impact on the Nigerian economy if the agencies are able to defend their budgets effectively. It could lead to increase in revenue generation and even equally a reduction in borrowing. However, if the agencies are unable to defend their budgets, it could lead to a decline in revenue generation and an increase in borrowing. Do you agree with that?
Yes, it's
Right.
obvious. Like I told you,
Right.
the main agencies that have been specified by the National Assembly, each can generate 10 trillion. There is no need
60.
to borrow.
Right.
That's 60.
Mm-hmm.
NNPC 10, NIMASA 10, Illa Revenue 10, Custom 10. You go and go and go. And then the other lesser component is coming. This is the federal government alone. No,
Not a private sector.
not the private sector
Yeah.
or state. So if you can have this one, then we don't need to borrow. Our liability can begin to decline, and we can now renegotiate our debts and pay it off, and our foreign reserve can also be improved, because if you have more domestic economic activity, it will reduce importation. If you reduce importation, there is tendency that your foreign reserve will go higher because you are generating new funds every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the expectations of stakeholders, though, and Nigerians are quite high too as well, and many are hoping that the budget defense process will lead to an increase in transparency and accountability in the budgeting process. But if you also recall, many are also hoping that the process will lead, to an increase in revenue generation and a reduction in borrowing. And but then some thoughts have come from the place of monitoring and evaluation, right, of the process. That it will be critical in ensuring the goals of the process are achieved. In fact, in place of sustainability, the budget defense or the sustainability of the budget defense, process will depend on the ability of the governments to implement recommendations of the committee. I mean, the government will need to ensure that the budgeting process is transparent and accountable at all. What will be your recommendations, in the place of how things are being spanned, and final thoughts, or conclusion in how we can steer
I
the
still
country?
urge for us to have a sound economic success in 2025. We have to settle all economic reform agenda in the first quarter of this year.
All of it.
Yes, all of them. So that the economy can start responding to the adjustment. That is one. Second, the National Assembly should keep on monitoring not only the agencies, but monitor the Federal Ministry of Finance in terms of releases. It is very disappointing to have a budget performance of 25% for a whole year, while you already have a projection of generating revenue and then sourcing to also augment. So that is also very important. Finally, I encourage those beneficiaries of the budget 2025 to to spend, to utilize the fund judiciously,
Right.
especially from the security angle, so that we can start expecting bumper harvest from the lands that we are going to reclaim, and also stabilize food prices and then have better production. Lastly, the monetary authority
Right.
should look inward. This rebasing exercise must include recapitalizations of our banks, and no financial institution should be allowed to underreport their successes. Profit before tax, profit before tax, profit before tax is very important.
Right, profit before tax is very important. I mean, the budget defense process is a critical step towards enhancing revenue generation and reducing borrowing in Nigeria. I mean, the process also has the potential to increase transparency and accountability in the budgeting process, as well as lead to increase in revenue generation and a reduction in borrowing. We want to say a big thank you to you, Dr. Yusho Aliyu. You are an economic and analyst who's well versed in the matters that concern every type
Just
of,
right.
economy. Yes, thank you for your time. And of
Thank
course,
you.
to you that also took your time to be schooled, listening attentively and all of that to get the juice of it. Thank you, far too kind. We don't take your listenership for granted. Until tomorrow, when we'll come back, to have this discourse on politics and current affairs. Please stay safe, be politically guided, and also have your own budgets, budgeting system within your home front. It is very important, especially in 2025. My name is Udwak Daniel.